Hello, welcome to the section about the experience with my system. I will first talk a little bit about the history, then give you some statistics about my smart home, then how I define my system and what is the experience finally. So how did it develop? The flat was built in 2008 and I decided to use a KNX system and also had a hardwired LAN. At that time, I had no idea what I would do with the system later. In 2014, I bought an interface connecting the KNX bus to the LAN and had a Raspberry Pi for the first few automations and the first smart functions. That is about a decade ago. I added more and more Raspberry Pi extensions. You see some of them here. I will not go into detail now. There's another chapter about that. In the beginning, it was decentral, has some advantages, but to do the software is little synergy. You can't share a configuration file and so on. So after a few years, I changed to a central system and found that very beneficial. Now in 2023, my smart home has 50 physical sensors and nearly 80 actuators. There are some tables with more detail. If you want to have a look at that wiki, you find the address in my channel on YouTube. For the KNX bus, I'm having 415 addresses in use. Some of them, like the sensors and actuators with hardware, and most of them virtual addresses and virtual devices. So what is the system? And here I made a sketch. I have a device, and then the information passes through a certain way into the smart home center. In the case of path A, the most shortest one, the device is a KNX device. It sends a telegram to the bus, and if it's, for example, a light, the light is turned on immediately because it's also connected to the very same bus. At the same time, the telegram on the bus through the interface is sent to the smart home center, which then can process the change of information. The path B, going to an interface and then to the bus, these are the Raspberry Pis which are directly connected to the interface. So they send a telegram to the bus and then follow path A above. As you can see in the graph, path B is a little longer than path A, but not much. And my experience is that path B is still very quick, very reliable, very convenient. Path C, where we go to a web interface, and from the web interface we address the KNX interface, go through the bus, back to the interface, into the smart home center. So for this path C, that can be a Shelly button. Shelly button allows you to configure an URL, and when you press a button, the URL is called. And this is still a fast lane, but it has more configuration and more steps. It's not too bad. Path D here and path E, the complete path, these are the most complex ones. The device is any device from a proprietary system running on an external server. Then you have to talk to an integration software, SmartThings and stuff like this, which connect to the proprietary server and make the information available. Then from SmartThings, you may connect to a middleware like Home Assistant, Apple HomeKit, Google Smart Home, and things like that. And this software sometimes is able to work with a KNX interface. For example, Home Assistant can use a KNX interface. If the middleware doesn't work with KNX interface, you need to go through the web interface first, then go to KNX and forward into the smart home center. So these last two options, D and E, are very similar, and they are adding a lot of complexity in configuration and time lag to the system. So this is my description of the system. Now, when we talk about the experience, the fast lane A is perfect. With all the KNX devices I have in my flat, it's reliable, it's fast, it's low maintenance, and it's a straight connectivity. It's absolutely worth the price. I'm also happy with the Raspberry Pis on path B. It's still flexible, it's still fast and direct, and it's fully local. So actually it has a lot of advantages which are given to the new Meta standard. So I'm also happy with all the Raspberry Pi extensions. I think I showed it again before, but it's so nice I show it again. The path C with the web interface, I have only seen a few smart devices which allow that to invoke an URL when some action is taken. I have one button, but actually that is not used because it's perceived too complicated by my family. Here I have some information about the human-machine interface, where I compile the same experience that buttons are nice, but in the long run, my family is not supporting that. Paths D and E are high effort, are vulnerable, and bottom line, they are not cheaper. This can currently not avoid it, for example, for measuring the power consumption. My Raspberry can't really do it in a good way, the KNX can't do it. A smart plug can do it very good. So here we have to take that disadvantage in order to achieve the feature. There are also sometimes locations where setting up a Raspberry Pi is kind of over-engineered, and using a smart plug is just much easier. Then the central system, instead of a poorly connected island, it gives a huge synergy for the configuration file, for software sharing, and for the interconnectivity within the whole flat. So I'm happy with the central system compared to the islands I had in the beginning of my smart home journey. So in total, after the loops I've taken for a decade, I'm convinced that this flexible system for the path A to D into one central smart home center is the best way. The advantages are flexibility, to integrate different components. It provides the KNX bus as the ultra-fast lane, and the smart home center realizes huge synergies on the software level. For the config file, that is for me also a huge advantage on the software side. I have one configuration file where I control everything, and I don't have to distribute that. I don't have to reconsider if I want to change this. In which system do I have to mess around to improve a parameter? So, in case that made you curious, this wiki has a lot of details and information, and you find the address in my channel. Thank you very much for listening. See you soon.